Please rise for the 16th meeting of the year. We're going to take a few minutes to meet and greet fellow Rotarians and guests, and then we'll follow up with invocation. You are. When you weren't here, Tom Swift was here. I said week 13, right? Oh, 16th meeting, so 20, a little more than 25% of the deck is gone. You know, I don't think I've ever shuffled the deck and just spread it out. I have no idea where the ace of spades is. It's been hit. See, I love this little deal here, this energy, and I think it's great for guests, really, because otherwise guests come in and sit down, they listen, and they never really talk to them. You know? They talk. Yeah, they're rolling. Well, sometimes, like, I haven't seen Shane for a while. You know, you get to see somebody you haven't talked to in a while, and so we got several districts. Yeah, Max is going to present us with presidential citation for last year, so several DGs came. It's kind of nice. Thanks for coming. Did you drink a lot of pints the other night? No, I was holding. Oh, nice. I saw Hubert that morning, and so I don't know how it went. I see him at the gym. Not able to attend, but it would have been a fun thing to do. But I just went out on Monday night. Get it going here. Please return to your seats and remain standing as Leo Avila leads us in invocation, pledge, and the national anthem.
All right. Lord, we want to thank you for having us today, this afternoon, for this lunch. We want to pray for all those that are going through conflict in any troubled areas. Pray for any members who are going through anything, or extended family members or friends that are going through anything. And pray for our great country, that we continue to be the shining light of freedom. Amen.
I don't think I've ever felt like the video was ever behind, but today they felt like they were behind. All right, now we get to share that time where we get to share things we're happy about, little happy news. And I'm going to say it again. How about them Cowboys over those Longhorns last weekend? Yeah, you should have seen it, John. Leo's got one over there in the corner. You know Oklahoma State fan?
My happy bucks this week. Found out last night I got selected to be the VP of events for Texas X's Dallas chapter for 2023. So,
congratulations. Any other happy news anybody wants to share? Nobody? It's a dreary day out there. Nobody's got anything happy? Barb Daniels is a friend of mine. Barbara Peterson. Oh, wait a minute.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy. Is it on? But my husband is not so happy. I decided to get a new puppy. You can understand. Score for us. Her name is Dolly, and she's just precious.
Oh. All right, awesome. Any others? If not, at this time, any guests that are here, please stand and be introduced today. Yeah, we got a big table right here, full of them.
I have with me my wife of 56 years, Nancy.
Nancy. Thank you. Welcome.
Okay. How do we want to introduce you?
Okay. All right, you guys, bear with me. I feel like show and tell here today. So this is my first year of being in a district position. I'm the District 5810 chair for membership. So I have my immediate boss here, our current, servant boss is Howard Templin, who is our current district governor, 5810. All right. Okay. Hey. Okay. Then my bigger boss, districts go into zones, right? So we have Beverly Ludke here, and she is this year's. And Howard is from the Dallas Club. Okay, so all right. So Beverly is the Region 36 member area coordinator. She's the immediate past district governor of 5870, which is in our region, our zone. And so clubs go into districts, which go into zones, which go into regions. Okay, hang in there with me. Okay, so then we have immediate past district governor 5870. She is also, in her spare time, a member of the Rotary Club of Temple South. And she is responsible for appointing Kathy Allred as a member to us.
Awesome.
Yes, there's a good friendship behind that. Okay, so then we know Alex Johnson, remember that region thing for Region 36? He is the innovative club advocate and the assistant Rotary coordinator, and all that means that he helps any club in our district build, in our zone, build new clubs. So if we want to build a new club, he is helpful in coordinating that. And he's part of, comes from Plano West. And then, y'all know Max DuPlante, immediate past district governor for 5810. Max, you're a member of? Irving Las Colinas. And she brought a potential member as a guest for us. So let me introduce.
So most of you know, or some of you know, when I'm not doing Rotary projects, I'm a competitive dancer, and about a week or two ago, I was finishing up with a session with one of my coaches, and Karina was coming in, and we got to talking about volunteering, and she enjoys volunteering. And so I said, if you're interested in that, I can hook you up with the right people. Got to ask her a few questions, and it sounds like your club is probably the best match for her. So I'd like to introduce Karina Bowman, and potentially a future Rotarian.
Wait.
I am very, very, very pleased today for the last time to introduce this lady as a visitor, soon-to-be Rotarian. Today she receives her packet. So welcome, Mary Ann.
Please welcome a visiting Rotarian from Mexico City, Mario. Do you want to say just a little bit?
Yes.
Say hello.
Hello, friends. I'm Mario Rosado. I'm in town for business, but I'm from Rotary Club Anáhuac Tacubaya from Mexico City, and I'm glad to see you. Thanks for having me here.
I think that's it. Thank you very much for being here today. Next up will be Mark Kasher introducing our marketplace advertiser.
Thank you, President Jeff. Our marketplace advertiser today is Michelle Brown in Advanced ER, which is a 24-hour emergency room serving the Dallas area. While they have many of the same services and standards as a hospital emergency room, their center features various benefits that set them apart from the standard urgent care center. First and foremost, they have no wait times. Also, when you arrive, you'll see an ER doctor immediately, and they also have a team of specialists who are available to provide on-site specialty care for treatment and consultation. Most importantly, their centers are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As accidents can happen anytime, their team is always prepared to provide the attentive care patients need. At Advanced ER in Dallas, they are committed to serving our communities however we can. Not only do we provide quality, experienced, and diligent medical care in urgent and emergency settings, but we also proudly participate in local events and fundraisers in notable charities. They love Dallas, and we want to show it by giving back to our community. So Advanced ER is a proud member of the Rotary Club of Park Cities. So let's thank Michelle and Advanced ER.
Kathy, you are now up to introduce our new member, Mary Ann.
I am so pleased to have this happen today. This wonderful lady to join our club and to do it while the past district governor, where I was last Rotary year, is here to observe it, and she is, as announced, the regional membership Rotary coordinator. It's not easy to say. Is a card big enough for you to print? Okay, thank you. I am proud to be the sponsor of this wonderful lady. She has all of the qualities I believe this club is looking for. Number one, she's kind, she's giving, she's retired. And she's looking for something to fill her time. Okay? Mary Ann is a really wonderful human being. I believe she fits in beautifully with this club and our mission. Welcome aboard.
So Mary Ann, here is your red badge. And after you complete this and pass the test, then we will get you a permanent badge. So you already passed one of the things. You were at the program meeting the other night. So that was one of the items you could check off your list. So thank you very much and congratulations. Past District Governor Max Duplant.
I have a very special honor today, not only just to be with you, but to present to you part of the remaining duties left from last year. I have to present to this club the 21-22 Rotary Citation awarded to the Park Cities Club for helping Rotary serve to change lives of people all over the world. This club did a fabulous, fabulous job last year under Happy's leadership. I know she's out of town. I wish she could have been here today, but the banners you have here illustrate it, and most importantly, the brand new banner you have as the Fun Club tells the whole story, but also all the work that you've done in the community. So it is truly a pleasure for me to present to you, President Jeff, the certificate that on behalf of the entire club.
Yeah, the club has earned this. This is for everybody and all of their efforts they did, because there's a lot of things you got to complete. So thanks to Happy and everybody here to get this completed.
Thank you.
All right, a couple of notes of things that are coming up. Meadows Museum Tour, you've received a few emails regarding that. It's 11/11/22 at $11 a person. How in the world did they come up with all that? Dentistry with the Heart will be Saturday, November 19th. There'll be more information coming out soon for signups. The very next day, we're doing tree lighting at SNIDER Plaza. Of course, that's a big day, and we need all hands on deck. I'm real excited. Thursday, December the 1st, Scottish Rite popcorn packing is back, so that'll be a nice event. Usually we need about 40 people, 50 people for that. On December the 3rd, that same week, we're doing a distribution center over at Salvation Army where we reallocate Christmas presents that have been donated to the region so they can be distributed out into the community. And then, of course, our holiday party and celebration of CC Collie's 100th birthday will be Thursday, December 15th at Lakewood Country Club. So it's that time when we're going to have a raffle drawing, and we're going to ask our speaker, Norm Alston, to draw. So for those of you who don't know, we are doing a raffle, and each week the money goes into the pot. If you bought a raffle ticket and your number gets drawn, you will come up and you'll draw a card out of a deck of what's left in this deck. If you get the ace of spades, you win half of the pot, which is over $1,000 at this point. The other half will go to our Rotary Club of Park Cities Foundation. So we have had no winners yet. We're more than 25% into this deck. $1,201. So, and oh, by the way, if you don't draw the ace of spades, or if the person doesn't draw the ace of spades, you get to keep the card as a souvenir. All right, so this week's winner, ticket number ends in 4470. Paul Pyrock. All right. Oh my God! Congratulations, Paul. Oh, thank you so much. Paul has generously agreed to donate it back to the foundation, so the entire amount will go to the foundation. Thank you, Paul. So this deck will be thrown away, and we'll bring a new deck starting next week. So at this time, I would like to invite John Brown, our chair of the day, to introduce this week's speaker.
Today we're happy to welcome again Norm Alston, who's going to be talking about the work that is proceeding and is planned for the future at Fair Park and its connection to the bond election that is coming up on November 8th, I believe. Norm is the president of Norman Alston Architects. We've known each other for many years, working together at Preservation Dallas, and this year Norm is president of the Preservation Dallas Board. So let's welcome him. I think we know him well enough that I don't need to talk for 10 minutes and take up his time.
Thanks very much, John. It's always a pleasure to speak with folks about my passion for preservation and for Fair Park in particular. There is indeed a lot going on out there. I guess just a bit of background, because I last came here and I think talked about Preservation Dallas, did we not? So I got another hat on today, and this is a good day for hats. If you go out, and fins and flippers and other things, snorkels, boats. But I'm wearing the Fair Park hat today. Back in 2017, I was a member of the team that sought and was ultimately awarded the management contract for Fair Park. You may remember that. There was a couple of articles written about that now and then during those times. So our team was selected, and after a long negotiation process, took over management of the park in 2018. I spent the first three and a half years on the board, one of the four founding board members, because it was really supposed to be a consulting gig and there wasn't any architecture to do, so they had to put me to work someplace, and so I did that. Since then, though, things have picked up, and I'm actually served now as a consultant to a lot of the really mostly planning at this point. I think most everybody's pretty familiar with the issues that surrounded Fair Park. We had and continue to have a large number. The ones directly related to me particularly have to do with deferred maintenance. When we took over the project, we had an estimate from a prominent engineering firm that figured the outstanding just repair and repair work at Fair Park total about $250 million, about $250 million. Sorry to report that was way lowball at the time. We have since, at this point, I think the number has, after looking at it more closely, the number has grown to more like $400 million in deferred maintenance. And that deferred maintenance really just gets you to, to get the buildings dry and the air conditioners working and the toilets flushing and the lights on and maybe some flowers in the flower box. And because I complained about that. I said, that's my problem with Fair Park is you go out there and it looks, no wonder people think it's closed. For the longest time, you go out there and there would be fountains that weren't founting and flower boxes with no flowers and flagpoles with no flags. At one point, I got really irritated. I said I could stand there and count 71 flagpoles that had nothing on them. And it seems like a small thing, but if you're the only person there and everything else is closed and not strung up, then you get the impression that you're not supposed to be here. I say Fair Park, when we started, had 100 different ways of asking you, what the heck are you doing here today? And a lot of people blame the fence, but it's not the fence. There's just a lot of things. So we've had a big job. There's been a big job to do, but everybody from the outset, a lot of the team members, many who were not from this area but came in because they had specialized experience that we needed with the park, have all recognized very quickly that we have a remarkable, completely unique in the world facility here. We use words like jewel. It's a really big jewel, if that's it, 277 acres. But it's almost, for us here, it's almost like can't see the forest for the trees, because it comes, besides its wonderful history and its wonderful facilities and all of the art that we have there, we also have a long history of neglect and very, very difficult relations with the neighbors nearby. We as Fair Park First, we're challenged with fixing all of that. And so that is underway, and I'm going to bring you up to speed on some of that, and also mention that part of what gets us excited is the Proposition A that's on the November 8th election. I'll explain a little bit more about that now. And I'll go through some slides to show you some things of what is and what is to be, hopefully. Now, you saw me scurry from the back. We were having a little technical difficulty. I needed a PowerPoint presentation, not a PDF presentation. So I had to go back, and this is really very smooth, because just as we got this done, y'all finished, and here I came up. So it's going to work pretty well, I think. But we have, this presentation is really about Proposition A, which includes a fairly heavy dose of the convention center, which I am not here to speak about today, and about which I know very little. I know Fair Park, so we may have to spin through some of these slides very quickly and help out as I explain it. So, see where we are. All right, real briefly, I will say what is Prop A, because I keep referring to it. That is on the ballot, and what that is, shorthand for it is, we call it Brimer Bill. The original Brimer Bill was a mechanism whereby hotel occupancy tax that was collected was allocated to fund improvements that would drive tourism and thus more hotel occupancies and more money for the community. Back in the last legislature, it was necessary to make a change to the Brimer Bill to allow Fair Park to participate. That parks were prohibited from participating in Brimer Bill money. And the only time we'd ever used Brimer Bill in Dallas was to construct American Airlines Center. And it was very successful. We did 30-year bonds on it and paid them back in 15. It was a really big improvement to the hotel occupancy and to tourism in Dallas. So now those same funds are available not just to the convention center, but also 20% of it will go to Fair Park. That's an estimate of about $300 million if it passes. I promise you, $300 million would be completely transformational for Fair Park if it were to pass. I don't think I can officially come out here and politic for this thing, so you make up your own decision. But we're excited at the prospect of Proposition A and what it will mean for Fair Park. Well, again, you know Fair Park really started in 1886, but the Fair Park we know today was created in 1936 as part of the Texas Centennial Exposition. There are a number of important historic buildings that remain at Fair Park. To a lot of people, they don't look necessarily the way historic buildings would present themselves as we normally think of things prior to the 30s that are more elaborate. But Fair Park is a National Historic Landmark. It is unique in its architecture thanks to the work of local architect George Dahl at the time, whose legacy continues with us throughout the city now. And the fact that somehow over the years we have found a way to make Fair Park, keep Fair Park substantially intact, if not well maintained. And so we inherited it today really with when we took over, the problem has always been there's been no real vision for what Fair Park was supposed to be after the Centennial. We've always said after the Centennial, it just didn't know what it was supposed to be. Nobody ever came up with a really good plan for that, and we've had to create that vision beginning with a master plan 3 years ago, and now far more detailed plans as we go forward. Let's see. We have a lot of prestigious events. This slideshow isn't helping me much at all, in case you haven't noticed, but we'll, that's Convention Center. That's Convention Center. Some of these, if you can see them, are really pitiful photographs of leaks and broken materials, and so we won't get to that too much. All right, so here's where we'll get some of it. So we inherited, the first thing I'm just gonna get to the other one here. Just one, so I get a better picture. Sure, I'll do that. There we go. All right. So when we got the project, the first thing, the city told us as part of the contract, we need you to mend relationships with the community. We need you to find a way to make Fair Park financially viable. In our case, with little to no city participation, it needed to really stand on its own financially. Everybody understood that, and that's part of our part. And also, while you're at it, you need to restore and maintain an important national historic landmark. We said, great. And he said, now the first thing you need to do is build a new park. And I said, excuse me, we got 277 acres of park. Is that not quite enough? And they said, no, this was the first step. That was a long promised park to the community. Again, if you've heard recently about the look at that. Actually, use one of the handhelds. Okay. I got one. No. We there? Well, so much for smooth. You know, we were talking about how effortless it was. Yeah, so the point was because of the land grab in the 60s that the city made, taking homes and businesses from surrounding neighborhoods, from the local minority community, that and a number of other historical, unfortunate historical events had, as I mentioned, strained the relationship between Fair Park and its neighbors. Long ago, when they did the land taking, they had promised a community park in return. That had never materialized. Fair Park is often closed to private events, substantially, particularly the state fair, and that became a sore spot for the community. It was a park, but it was not always available as a park. It was often available as something else. So we're going to do two things. One is the first job, and the thing that we're working on right now, this has nothing to do with the Brimer bill. We have, for the last 2.5 years, been raising money, and I don't know quite where it stands now, but we're far enough along that we have, working with the community, identified a place to put in a new community park that will be open to the community, open to everybody, you know, every day of the year, never closed for the state fair or any of the events. The community chose the location for it, and it's going to be back on the what most of us would consider the back of Fair Park, facing on to Fitzhugh back there. If you see those huge, enormous parking lots back there, it's going to take 14 acres of one of those parking lots as a new park, and I haven't seen a picture of the park itself in here just yet. One of the things, but we have this. I'll tell you what this is. One of the interesting facts is everybody complains about the fact that we have these enormous fields of concrete that we use for parking lots to stay empty almost all the time. They're only needed when we have major events like the State Fair or the Stones concert or any number of other things. Turns out, after 2 different studies, our consultants on the parking said, yeah, you have all that empty space, but you need every single spot. For a lot of the events that you do. If you fill the park, if you actually activate this park and put people in it like you do at the state fair, then you're going to need all those spaces. So we cannot, the problem that came up with the park was we can't build a new park and take a couple of thousand parking spaces without replacing them. What you see on the screen now is the other part of this first phase, and that is a parking garage that will be constructed just next to the park. It will allow us to keep all the parking that we need, but put it into a structure over here and allow that park to be built. This is kind of a prototype of the sort of things that we expect more of at Fair Park. As we green the park up, we're going to need places to put the cars that are going to come and see the nice new green park. This is a unique design done by our friends at Gensler and Associates here, the architects who led this thing. Where they've done a remarkable thing is that they've put a garage in, but they've bermed up from the park to the side of it and basically incorporated that parking structure into the landscape, expanding the park over into that parcel, as well as providing some support space for Fair Park operations inside. So that is privately funded. That is mostly done through philanthropy. Those projects are both underway. We expect them to be open sometime about spring break 2025. So we're very excited. The neighborhood is very excited. You will see dirt turning on that before you know it. And when you see that in the back, that's what it's about. It's a real major step that we've taken to heal with the neighborhood as well as provide services to the neighborhood that they just don't have now. There's no parks nearby like we have. And if I come across a photo in this thing about those parks, then it'll be great because it's a remarkable place. It's not just grass. It doesn't have football fields or soccer fields. It is sort of Clyde Warren on steroids, all right? It's about 4 times the size of Clyde Warren. It will be a great place. Okay, with that behind us, that underway, then the Prop A idea came up, and we realized that was a real possibility. We also have some major events that we're trying to get. One of the ones that we'll mention is, believe it or not, is the next World Cup. in 4 years. This year it's in Qatar, and in 4 years it'll be in the United States. Dallas was awarded one of the host city locations. World Cup of Soccer. Sorry. World Cup of Soccer, or World Cup of Football, if you want to do it properly. But so the World Cup, we had that in 1984 here, and it made a lot of difference. But you know, our attitude towards world soccer is entirely different now, and that tournament is probably 4 times the financial impact that it was back then. So Fair Park is in line to participate in that. The games we played out at AT&T, at Jerry World, out in Arlington, but we have a real chance. In fact, it's down between us and Atlanta to take what's called the International Broadcast Center. Now, the International Broadcast Center is the real plum. It will make more money for Dallas and Fair Park than any of the games because it's a 7-month commitment. All of the news teams, the sports teams from around the world will come and headquarter in that one location. And they'll be there for 7 months, as well as a lot of supportive office space and activities. We had that actually in '84. It was fabulous. We desperately want that this time around and are playing hard to get it, and we feel very good about our chances because Atlanta has a convention center. Fun. Those are lovely. We have a park, and we can put you all over this park. The problem is they're not unfamiliar with the problems we've had with maintenance and modernizing the buildings, so that's where the Brimer money will go, Prop A money will go. We'll take some of our best, biggest, and most outstanding facilities and start to upgrade them. And here's an example. This is a quick example of one of them. If you remember the big green box out at Fair Park, the Coliseum, that was built in 1959 as the State Fair Livestock Coliseum. I actually just had an article in Candy's Dirt this week about that building. If you haven't read it, some interesting facts about it. It's a big green box with no windows. That's an after. I don't have a picture here before. Big green box with no windows, and when it was built in '59, it had no air conditioning. And they got to watch livestock. Can you imagine a big green unair conditioned box with livestock? Well, I wouldn't want it to be in there, but I'd like to see some video if you don't mind. That would have to have been interesting. Since then, it's been air conditioned and heated. It's in good shape that way. And the city has just spent $13 million of bond funds to upgrade it, so it's usable. But it's a very peculiar place. And number one, when they've upgraded it, they never added restrooms or concession stands or lobby space. That doesn't have enough of those things. You know, a concession stand about that size for 8,500 people means long lines and limited selection. So, but the best one is, and this one's right up there with the air conditioning and the no windows, is that there's 2 large banks of seating on either side, and they're not connected. If you want to go from one side of the Coliseum to the other, you have to go outside in the weather and walk around and walk in the other door. Now that may work great for high school basketball games, but for everything else, it's a nightmare. So one of the things that's planned, the improvements is coming, because that's a very good size. That's a very usable building with a few additions, and that would be what you see here. The non-green box part is a new mezzanine and lobby area that would connect up the 2 sides, add some additional seating on the end, so increase the capacity a couple of thousand seats, and provide a much better experience with restrooms and concessions, and even just a better lobbies that you could actually stand in outside, you know, inside from the weather while you're waiting to get your hot dogs or corn dogs or whatever. So that's a multi-million-dollar addition and upgrade to that building that will transform it. I'll use that word a lot, but transformation is what we're talking about here. We had a concert a few months ago there that worked out pretty well, but so many of the promoters and booking organizations that we talk to are just climbing all over us to do something with that building so they can program it, because it would meet very many needs. We'd have a lot more activation at Fair Park. Let's see what else we have. Okay, this is the other favorite. what I would call a semi-historic building. This is the house that Doak built, the Cotton Bowl. The reason I call it that is that's really what gave us the Cotton Bowl that we see today. In 1936, the Cotton Bowl was literally that. It was about a 12-foot wall on a berm, and then everything happened inside. It wasn't a big, tall building the way it is now. The big, tall building parts, where it says Cotton Bowl on the east and west entrances, were all constructed in 1947 and 1948 to accommodate the crowds that were coming out to see Doak Walker play football for SMU. That's why we called it then and call it now the house that Doak built. Most of what you've seen is played off of that. It looks like it does now because of those additions in the 47 and 48. But some of the other things from that time were like everything else. Has anybody ever been to a Texas OU game here? A few? Well, good. You survived it. I'm glad to see that. I was at this last one. It took me all of the halftime and half of the third quarter to get a bottle of water. And that's common. Literally, there have been no bathrooms or concessions added since the 1940s in the Cotton Bowl. And so if you've been there, that will explain everything for you. So we have, working with Overland Architects, we have developed extensive ideas about new locker rooms. Again, the locker rooms, most high schools have better locker rooms, and we ask the teams to go there now. And these are the features that Texas and OU, because that's in a game that nobody wants to lose. Dallas is prepared to do whatever we have to keep them playing at the Cotton Bowl, and that's but they don't want to talk to us till they get some commitment that we'll do some things that they need. So widening of the concourses and the mezzanines so that you don't have those incredible crowds anymore. Substantial increase in the number of concessions and restrooms that are readily available. Short side story on that, 2020, I think it was, the January 1, we had the Winter Classic hockey game between Nashville and Dallas out there, an outdoor cold weather hockey game. To accommodate the almost 100,000 people that came to that, we actually moved the fence line out and provided all those additional services inside a fence, but outside the Cotton Bowl. You had to leave the Cotton Bowl to go get your food or your drink or go to the restroom, but at least it kept all those people in those big, huge coats from having to, pardon me, not now, from not getting things done inside. It was partly successful, but we've got more plans for that. This image gives you a thought of how it might start to happen. We've got room for some additional mezzanine levels, open things up like this. And what they've done here is we're showing murals and things on the ceiling that are very reminiscent of the other art and Art Deco treatment we have throughout the park, but it would be very sensitive to the historic context of both the park and to the Cotton Bowl. So that's and there's new plaza, new suites, new restrooms. Like I say, new floor level suites that are really popular at Jerry World. Apparently, people want them. We have really other than a roof that will make this one of the most advanced stadiums in the country, and will make a huge difference for the usefulness of the Cotton Bowl. There's also some money for the music hall. The music hall dates from 1925. It's one of our most historic buildings, and it's a very active, has been a very busy place throughout its history. It has never really fallen on what you call hard times. It's always had productions on a regular basis. So we'll be improving some of those old systems also. This is a shot of inside of the Coliseum, the big green box, of what it might look like. On the end there, it shows in the middle, it shows that new concourse going across the back where right now there's nothing. But that would just be a tremendous improvement there. This is one of my favorite projects. This is the band shell. I'll talk about the band shell for a second. And I'm getting, how much time did you want me to? 5 minutes, be good. I can do that. The band shell is one of the most sensitive ones. So if you know the band shell, I was out there for Shakespeare in the Park a number of years ago at 104 degrees. One of our park people said, well, you know, if it was popular in 1936, why isn't it popular now? I goes, well, people didn't have air conditioning in their cars or their offices or their homes or their schools or their theaters. We've kind of gotten used to all that stuff. The bandshell today, even though it's a beautiful historic place and a very interesting history to it, it has no light system. It has no sound system. Originally, it's right next to the lagoon, and we always wonder why the seats are so far back from the stage. We recently found drawings that showed that they had intended to take the lagoon into and up through the bandshell originally. There was going to be a water feature between the audience and the stage. Now, you're laughing, but I want it back. I'm fighting for it. That would be the coolest thing ever. The people who run, who'd have to maintain it are a lot less enthusiastic about it than I am. So I don't think it's on the agenda right now, but we'll see. There's time to go. But that lets us move the seats up. What we're going to be putting in lighting and sound system. Oh, this is a place, if you like the Coliseum and the Cotton Bowl, this place has no restrooms. No restrooms at all inside, has absolutely no concessions whatsoever inside. So we have a plan, and you can just see them in the foreground here, of in the very back, to convert some of those seats over to decks where you can sit and enjoy the concessions you can now buy and look out over the crowd and watch the show, and restrooms inside so you don't have to go outside of the place to do it. But the number one thing that you can see here is a shade structure, a lightweight shade structure reminiscent of the kinds of things that they do for new sports stadiums. It would be lightweight, translucent, so we can light it from the inside. It won't provide a lot of rain protection, which is relevant today, but any other time, especially during the summer months, it will provide enough shading and all that it'll substantially increase both the appeal and the usability of the bandshell. And let's see. No, we don't need a convention center vision, although it's nice. Well, I'll just wrap up. I've got just got about 2 minutes left anyway, I think. So those are, we'll also be doing a lot of improvements to the historic buildings, particularly the automobile building and the Centennial buildings, which are on the Esplanade. Not wishing to focus too much on the Brimerville because it's an important part of what we're doing. It will be a transformational, but there are many other things. There are more activities there. There's more money coming in as we figure out how this gets done and increase the activity at the park. And as we tap into the remarkable philanthropic community that we have here in Dallas. Dallas is almost unmatched for its generosity. It may be hard to get that started, but once you show people that you've got something that the city needs, then they're very generous. And we will soon be sharing some numbers about what people have committed to help us with this. And we'll be able to do so many things even beyond the Brimer bill that will, I think, in a remarkably short time, completely transform Fair Park, which will in turn transform the neighborhood around it. So it's kind of a quick one here for you today, but if you've wondered, be encouraged. Fair Park is going to be a better asset than what it has been, and we will all be able to see its vision realized. Okay, with that, we have questions.
Are you upgrading security?
Yes, indeed. In fact, there's things like cameras and all, and having a security center. We don't have anything like that now. A place where security comes to and they've got the cameras and things on. One of the other things we're talking about doing is not just upgrading it, but changing the attitude. One of the, we would like to see the security folks be more like hosts and hostesses. One of the things I've pushed for, I learned that actually from Jack Matthews at Southside on Lamar, where his security folks are actually a concierge service. They walk people to the car. They're dressed in, in polo shirts that are, butter yellow. They're not very threatening, but they're very capable. They provide a high level of security while also enhancing the guest experience. And that's something we don't do as well as we need to. So we will, so yes, there's a lot of things for security that we're doing to improve.
I'd like to know about the preservation of the historic buildings like the Hall of State. I like the green box update,
Yeah.
absolutely, but it doesn't look like the
No.
the old buildings.
Right.
How do you marry that?
Well, that's pretty easy. First of all, the Coliseum, the Green Building, could technically be historic, and that's something we're going to work on. But the other ones, the more traditional ones, Hall of State, of course, has just gotten a $14 million upgrade from the city. They're also looking for money, and we expect some in the bond program to finish that project. For all of the others, a lot of the Reimer money will go to that. And again, that's kind of where I'm immersed in. So we have a lot of things like broken stucco and things, and new roofs that are needed, and window restorations. That hasn't been as far up on the front burner as we've wanted because of financial constraints. I mean, the toilets really need to flush. I mean, they just have to. The air conditioning needs to work at least some of the time, and we put a lot of money into that. But yeah, that's a priority, and that's really what my job was with the organization, is to make sure that doesn't get swept under the rug in the enthusiasm for some of the higher income opportunities. Anybody else?
I got one, and then this should be the last one. As I understand it, just a couple pennies of hotel taxes,
Right.
all this, builds a new convention center, redoes all this stuff at the state fair, and it's still under Houston and San Antonio's rates.
My understanding is it will bring us up to the Houston, Atlanta, San Antonio, Nashville level. What we have now is we have a hotel occupancy tax that is lower than our competitors. Basically, we are several cities that we compete with on a regular basis, and ours is a little low. I think 2% or something is the number that I've heard, which doesn't sound like much. But the election is to allow the city to raise that tax rate to match those competitors. And the income that's expected from that change is what funds both the convention center and the Fair Park improvements that we've talked about here. They like to point out the fact that it's other people's money. It's not, it's not quite, because if any of you ever do a staycation, you're going to have to pay it if you're going to go stay at the Adolphus or something overnight. But for the most part, it is just what you do when you travel to other cities for conventions and things. You pay that for them. They get to come pay that for us. I think that's only fair, really. Okay? All right. Well, good. Thank you for having me. Hope that was informative.
Hey, Norman, thanks for speaking today. A book will be placed in the McShann Elementary Library in your honor.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Is this your clicker or is this ours?
That's y'all's clicker.
All right, next week, Scott Sexton will be our speaker. He's the CEO of EverAg, and they are formerly dairy.com. They are about helping supply chains to feed the world. I will be your chair of the day. Next up will be Beverly Ludke leading us in the four-way test.
Thank you for this honor. I try to live this four-way test since the day I became a Rotarian 16 years ago. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, they're true. Second, third, and fourth. Do y'all do the fifth? Is it fun? Yay!
Thank you.